Hey everyone, this is Mr. Everything, and today I wanted to do a review or a retrospective of the 2017 iPad Pro and 2020. This, I believe, was the second generation iPad Pro. It's the 10.5 inch. I started out with the original Air, then I got the Air 2, which at the time was like, had the triple core processor. It was the thinner display, it was the laminated display, and it had the AR coating or whatever built. So it was like really the crown jewel. And I finally got it, and I was so happy about it. And then, like right after I got it, because I always buy my Apple products usually a year or two behind what the current gen is. And this one came out, and it's 10.5 with even slimmer bezels and the nice 120 hertz smooth motion on a lot of the, well, it's built into the screen, but there's a lot of it supporting different apps and in your browser, so you get that experience. And it makes a big difference. So then I ended up really wanting it, and finally got it back in 2018. It's the most expensive iPad I've ever bought, and I've been really happy with it. And I just wanted to still use it here in 2020. Talk about it a little bit. It's a little different than a conventional review. I'm not going to just go over specs, because the specs have already been gone over. They're easy to look up, but just how it's working for me in 2020 is what I want to do now. Okay, so we're on iOS 13.4.1, and that will pertain to a lot of this review and a lot of the problems I have with it. It's due to iOS 13 or iPadOS 13 this year. As I'm looking at the viewfinder here, I wonder if you can see this on screen, that bright spot there, as I went over to kind of change the exposure. I'm not sure if I can. If I play with it a little bit, I think you can see there and there. And I was really disappointed with that. And I had noticed, I think it was only for the 10.5 inch, which is what this is. They do get that hot spot or that bright spot in them. And it's kind of annoying, especially because it's a Pro product. And as much as you pay for it, you really wouldn't like that. But my Air 2 had... It was like I think it was called the book spine or something, where it was like a little bit faded, a little dark and shadowy on the corner. So this isn't as distracting as that, but every now and then when you're viewing, especially when it's like this, when it's white, you can pick that up, and it is a little annoying. Now, one thing I want to do that I don't know why almost no reviewers ever show is power off and power on. Just gives you an idea how quick the machine is. I know now that's way more important with computers, with iPads and smartphones and stuff. I mean, you're really not turning them on and off that often, so it doesn't really matter. And one thing I noticed back in the day, you'd just hold it for a second and it would come on, but now you have to hold it for several seconds, which is kind of annoying, but just something I thought I'd mention. And there we go, back in. So it doesn't take too long. I do believe that my iPhone 8 Plus is actually faster, because that had the 6-core, can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was a 6-core processor. And I believe that this Pro, because it was actually a year older, this was still on a triple core. Now, well, I would recommend getting the newer iPad Pro with the 3rd or 4th gen. Remember, it doesn't have the home button though, but it has that better processor. That would be really what would make this even better, would be to have that newer multi-core processor over just the 3 cores in this one. Okay, and the main issue here, again with the iPadOS 13, is just the RAM management. And it's been getting better every update, but it's still there. It's like a memory leak of some sort. So what I do is I just use this widget here, and you can see, like, there's nothing running. So how is like that much being used? I get there's going to be background processes, but I just don't get it. And this is a 4 gig model, so how it can burn through that, since just the iteration from 12 to 13, that's where all my problems lie at. So usually I keep Gmail open. You can see that's nice and snappy. YouTube. And the limiting factor on speed here is my internet. That's why the app opens, but it takes us a couple seconds for everything to download. And then Chrome, love it. But again, pretty quick. And you can see now generally what I like to do, and I don't know if it's on purpose or just it's how it always comes out. Sometimes I might have 10 tabs open because say I'm looking for a product, especially on eBay. And not so much like when I'm doing a search. So I'll go over here, and then I might want to look at some other ones, but I want to keep that listing open. And then it's just, you might be doing a couple other things. So there would be times where I'd have like 10 tabs open, and on the Air 2, of course, when I go back to the first one, I would expect it to reload. But with this iPad, I think I could do like 10 tabs up until iPadOS 13. It would, after a while, it would just always reload all of them, and I'd always be running low on RAM. So, see, now we're already down to slightly under 1 gig free, and that's really good on iPadOS 13. I haven't been as picky on it until this iteration. Now I'm checking that all the time, because before I never had app reloads. Maybe if I didn't use an app for a whole day, or again I was like doing like looked through like 50 tabs, like I just had a bunch of stuff open, then I could see all my stuff reloading. But it just happens all the time now, and I don't like it at all. So open up something else. Again, this is the Pro model with 4 gigs of RAM. The newer iPadOS shouldn't make it run worse. It should make it run better, in my opinion. But so we got another one open here. So now the memories, I don't get it. I just don't get the RAM management on this. But that's kind of, but then I guess what this review refers to, because this is what the situation in 2020 is that simple. So the ESPN's a pretty heavy app. There's a lot of different feeds and stuff being pulled in, and so it is down significantly. But usually I don't need that many apps open. I just usually it's those 3. And again, it looks good, but after a couple days, that'll be down to like 200 to 300 with those same apps. Like it must cache in the background somehow, even when the app's closed. So to me, it's a memory leak. I'm not that good on it, but it's better than what it was. But hopefully that'll be fixed in future iterations. Again, as far as speed, if I would go into this, or again, you can see the apps themselves open quick. I think it's just my internet that makes them a little slow to actually pull in the images and such. But it works great for me. I do have some games on here, but I just don't use it. 10 years ago, I would have loved to have something this powerful when I was a kid in school. But now with just the consoles, I just don't want to play mobile games. So I have these on here. I pretty much don't even touch them. I just put them on here in case like my TV explodes or something. I would maybe use these, but I used to play that sometimes. I mean, this is an older game. Oh man. But as far as performance goes, it's I just don't know why people would want a game on something like that. I could see doing it, but as far as making a big deal of how good the performance is, to me, this is just more of a productivity device. And this is one of the more intensive games. Now this is the LTE model. That's something that I wanted. It's just a free service, Freedom Puppet I used to use on my main phone. And now I just have a prepaid, different services, much better. So I just put that SIM in this. So it's just a little bit extra data. As far as signal goes, I don't think the signal is as good as what's on my phone. But there are different carriers. This is using AT&T and my phone's using T-Mobile. So it's really hard to get a good idea, but I mean, it does work fine, so for what that's worth. As far as battery life goes, I don't think I get 10 hours, but I'd probably get anywhere from 7 to 8. That would be like continuous use. For some reason, I just got up, did some stuff on the internet, watched a few hours of YouTube, then looked up some more things on the internet or edited a video. I use iMovie on this a lot of times, and I'd probably get, but if I'm not using it non-stop, I can usually get 2 full days until I need a charge if it's just here and there use. But I use it pretty heavily, and that's where I usually keep the brightness a little under half. Now I do have the 12-watt charger that was for the iPad, which was the best charger you could get at the time. But now I got this 18-watt slightly fast charger. I'm not sure if the iPad can charge faster than 18 watts, but it's fine for me. Now you do need the Type-C to lightning cable. This is a 6-foot one. It actually costs us like $30, which is just crazy. I think now though, you can just get an aftermarket like Anchor or some other brands, because I think they have the patent now or whatever, like they're licensed to. At the time when this was the only one you could get. So, but with this, I think it would fully charge in about 2.5 hours. With the standard 12-watt or 10-watt, whichever one you have, it was more like 4 or 4.5. But probably to get from 5-10% to high 80s, probably just a little over an hour. So this charger is definitely a big recommendation to charge any iPad Pro, quite frankly. And honestly, for the rest of this video, I really just want to talk more about the physical aspect, because the hardware remains the same and the condition is probably something of note as well, compared to, I could just keep complaining about what I don't like about iPadOS 13, but I'm sure that can be fixed. But to show what you get, this is the first iPad I ever put a glass screen protector on. You can kind of see it there. It was, I think it was called a black web. It was whatever Walmart sold. It was really cheap. And it had the template, so it was much easier. You didn't have to try and line it up. But it was really hard. A little phone's easy, but it was kind of hard to not get any specs under it. But it's been holding up great. Now, it is very reflective, so that's one thing you lose, is that original AR coating that's on the actual glass, because this is so glossy that it kind of brings it back. I don't really know if I needed it, but just for as much as I spent on it, I wanted to put one on. This is Apple Pencil compatible, but I don't use one. And, you have the smart connector, and this is just a very thin device. You do have a headphone jack for this second gen 10.5-inch model, a camera bump, a flash, and this is the LTE model, and you get 4 speakers, which is a nice touch. And then this is lightning still on this one, and SIM card trays here. And this has the nice chamfered edges. Now, one thing I don't like about this iPad is where they put the microphone placement. I don't get it like there's 2, but they're right next to each other. I think on the Air 2, the one mic was here for the rear, and then maybe I think that one might have been there. Because one time when I did try to record with this, your hand covers pretty much both of them, so it's just constantly muffled and switching between the two. So that to me just wasn't a good idea. But again, the condition is excellent. The back of it's still pretty much scratch free. Now personally, I've always had a smart cover on this. I originally had the ugly gray one that's like the polyurethane or whatever it is, and I found this nice blue leather one, which I did a video on. So that's what I've been using for over 6 months now, and it does a great job. It's still holding up pretty good. You get nice protection. You don't get any on the back, but again, it's held up nicely. Just a typical, smart cover. Like, they pretty much all function like that. One problem is they show the wear from the camera bump, which is a shame. But I guess if you want the better camera, that's how they're going to present it to you. You have to deal with that, but it's not the end of the world. And one gripe I have is with, I believe it's the 10.5, and I think also the 10.2 Current 7th gen iPad, and I mean there's so many different ones. I think there's an Air 3 as well. I don't think any of these Apple sells a smart cover or a smart case for it. They still sell that smart cover, but as far as they used to have that nice leather case that had the whole front and back protection. So I had to go third party, and this company is Jason Case, and it's actually pretty. That's obviously China. You can tell just by the name, but it's nice. It's lined in leather, not suede like the Apple leather ones were, but it's real leather. I don't know if it's the greatest quality, but it's good for. It was like $40, so it's still cheaper than what an authentic Apple one would cost. But what I don't like is it's plastic, so it's a little tight and it feels a little cheap when you put it on and off. It's like some plastic shell wrapped in leather. To where I think the Apple one was just all leather and it was thick enough, or maybe it had a little bit of cardboard in the molding part, but this is pretty good. It's still slim. It's pretty close to the Apple one, not as nice. The Apple one had a cutout instead of just this whole notch cutout. It does have a cover, because it's not precisely drilled, so they just kind of put the that little fake grill behind it so you can't see where the speakers would be. It accommodates the cameras and the microphones, so it's okay. I don't use it that much. I just use it when I take it outside in case I would drop it. As far as at home use, though, I don't use it for that. But it still has the smart function, and it does the same thing. I do believe Jason Case makes leather cases for other iPads and iPhones and probably other devices too. I got it. You can look it up on Amazon, or I think they have a website, which was right there. So this is what I use. It's a good solution. I'd much prefer Apple sell their smart case for this, but they don't. And I think the 3rd and 4th gen Pro models, they have the smart keyboard and smart cover, but I think that model, since the Pogo connectors are on the back, it has a back piece and a front piece, so it's pretty much the same as a smart case, but it doesn't cover the edges still. And again, being on iPadOS 13, you do get this like extra view, whatever, but I don't really notice the 120 hertz anymore unless they dialed it down, which I don't think they did, but it's just, I don't really notice it. I guess the novelty kind of wears off. So, I mean, mostly what I use my iPad for is just simply watching YouTube, doing most of my web browsing. If I don't want to get on the computer or my Surface tablet or anything, I'll just do it on here. And like it won't make your video look smoother, but it does make the comments and like web pages, when you scroll, you get that smooth scrolling with the 120 hertz. And another thing, you do get multitasking on this iPad, but I think all the new iPads at this point do that. So you can, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to complain. You can do all that stuff. Just because I can, I want to complain as to, you can see with the Apple Mail app, you could do multitasking, but with Gmail, you can't. And that's one of the main things I want to do sometimes. I don't want to close the video, stop the video, so I just want to do Gmail, but you can't. Now that's probably a Google thing, not Apple, because obviously Apple made their mail app work in split view or whatever. But the one thing that I am on Apple for, how come the settings, there are so many times that I want to change like from Wi-Fi to hotspot, or I want to turn my Bluetooth on or off, which, I mean, you can do it here too, but I don't like what you would think that would be like the easiest thing. Just let me do the settings app in split view, but I can't, so I gotta close it and let the video stop and then go in it. But I hope you just enjoyed my nonsense. The iPad, for me, I use it every day. Sometimes I use it several hours every day. The battery life's still pretty good, but the battery life on almost all iPads is good for several years. With the 18-watt charger, it charges nice and fast. I still get, like I said, a good solid 7-8 hours on battery. It's great for YouTube, great for web browsing. The memory leaks do make the web browsing a little more annoying with the reloading of tabs. Hopefully that gets fixed, and that's just not how we have to deal with it with future iterations of iPadOS. It's like, oh, we just got to get the new iPad to not have that problem. I hope that's not the case. Physically holds up well. You can see again, this is what I'm using, stuff I'm using. So it's probably a pretty affordable system to get into now because it's about 3 years old. If you want, again, you have the Touch ID and everything. That's what you don't get on the newer iPads. Now, I think there are some advantages to getting the newer iPads. Again, the smaller bezels, but you don't get Touch ID. They have a different form factor. It's a little thinner, but I think they're more likely to bend where this one isn't. It's kind of give or take. They're much better CPUs, better cameras. They have some more just better chips and everything in them. But to me, this one's still great, and it gets the job done for me. So hopefully you found that helpful. That's where it is with my iPad. Use it every day. My situation here in 2020, it still works great. I wouldn't mind getting a newer one, but it depends on what your budget is. If this is what you have the option to get, it is great. It still works fine. Hopefully the iOS thing will get resolved in the future, but it gets the job done. And it was definitely a pro device at its time, and it still feels like one now. So thanks for watching, and you'll see me in the next one. Have a good one.